Hello adventurers, this is Craddock and I'm back with a Torment 13 Blood Mage farming build. That's right, you'll be happy to know I've optimized this build for low Paragon. That's right, I've been testing with approximately 300 Paragon assigned. You'll see here on my gear I've only got, my weapon is like, I had to raid someone's tomb just to get this crappy thing. My other gear is like ship shod. I removed the gems from my armor just to, lower my intellect. I picked out the worst amulet I could find in my stash. So you get the idea. We've got 7,000 int, 360 sheet damage, really low in my opinion. 36 crit, 278 crit hit damage. You get the idea. On the toughness front, still low as well. 1,000 on average, all resist, and 450 total health pool. You'll have to know I've been able to clear Torrent 13 Solaris in 4 to 5 minutes with this setup, and you can expect to do the same in season, which is really cool. On the longer maps, with more sparsely dense mobs, it might take 6 minutes, but on average 4 to 5 minutes, which is really cool. Hope you're excited. Let's get into it. Alright, here we are. Now, one of the things I wanted to do to preserve the damage of the build, to be able to do this at such low Paragon, was not swap out the weapon in the cube. We've got the Scythe of the Cycle in the cube. That's given us that massive damage bonus. I did not want to get rid of that. And since we want to also keep the Justice set to get that huge multiplier when we command our minions, couldn't get rid of that either. Had to do something about mobility to make sure you could get around the map more, and just as far as being able to survive elite attacks and that sort of thing. Most of the time you would put an Engiam here because that would solve all your cooldown problems. You'd be able to blood rush without having to worry about the cooldown at all, and that would solve it, but you're giving up that multiplier. I did not want to do that. So what I did instead is, with my very crappy gear, I just made sure that I had cooldown wherever I could find it, so yes, it doesn't matter which roll you get, just so long as it's the first cooldown roll you get on that item. And I got, see 5% here, 7% there, 7, well there's 8, but you get the idea. So both rings, your weapon, your shield, your gloves, your shoulders, diamond in the helmet, and if you can fit it, to start out you can try cooldown on amulet, but in the end I think a physical amulet with crit would be best here. But anyway, that'll put you at a very high level of cooldown reduction. Anything higher than maybe 40% will get you by, but 50% or close to 50% will really get you to a comfortable level, in my opinion, where you can just blood rush almost as often as you need it, but still engage enemies when you're going around the map. Let's see. One other really interesting thing that rolling the high cooldown affix on your gear does is it reduces the cooldown of your bone armor. Remember, since we're also slotting the Crisbin sentence ring, that triples our damage bonus against enemies afflicted by stuns. This is amazing. It just means you're going to be stunning all the monsters around you that much more to boost the damage of your mages all that much more. So that's a really cool side effect of rolling the high cooldown here, and you wouldn't think it with only being a 10-second cooldown, but it makes a huge difference when you start playing. Now, continuing along that theme of pushing the damage threshold, we've got the Endless Walk set for the huge 100% damage multiplier while standing still. Because we have such high cooldown, our blood rush, it's easier to maintain that 100% because you're able to blood rush more often and move a little bit less than you would otherwise. So that's very nice. And we're also using a couple of gems as multipliers. We're using Bane into Trapped. Got a really low one right here. And unfortunately I don't have a lower enforcer, but this one is fairly low, and I'm hoping the fact that I don't have, 20% physical on my amulet, plus the fact that I removed my gems will kind of balance that out in the testing environment at least. But this is also a huge multiplier to your pets. Along that note, we've got the Trag'ouls. So this is buffing our Skeletal Mages, the 6-piece, 3300% extra damage to Skeletal Mage, which is really nice. We're using Tasker and Theo to also buff our pets, increases the attack speed, so this is an indirect damage buff, but it's a really good one. You're going to want to have at least 1.6 character attacks per second on your sheet to hit the 24 frames per attack breakpoint of the Blood Mage. Now, I like to go to at least 1.61 just so I know it's above the breakpoint, and you can do that by tuning your Paragon. See here, I went just as high as I needed. Well, I could actually go just a tad bit lower, but just above the breakpoint, and then I dumped the rest into cooldown there because we need a lot of cooldown. But as far as attack speed rolls on gear, you're going to need your weapon, but and usually you'd only need one other roll, so maybe a 7 and a 6%er at minimum. But since my weapon, again, was not very good, I got a 5% roll here, which means I needed 2 rolls on gear and 1 on the weapon, so 3 total, just to meet that breakpoint. So it's a little bit harder in that regard to gear, but if you had to prioritize something, I would say prioritize the attack speed first until you hit that breakpoint, and then prioritize the cooldown. That's at least my preference. We have several items and abilities in this build to extend the duration of our Skeleton Mage. We've got Circle of Knowledge's Evolve. The extends them 4 seconds, also doubles the amount of mages that are created when you cast. We have 2 seconds on the rune here. You also get the Extended Servitude passive that'll increase the time on your mages as well. And additionally, we've got the Blood for Blood passive with the Life from Death as well to help spawn more health globes and give us free cost stacks. So whenever you spam your Skeletal Mage, when you have Blood for Blood stacks, the blood cost, the health cost will be free, and that's very nice. We're using the Siphon Blood Bloodsucker rune to help pull in those globes and without having to move. Again, really nice. And that's a globe interaction there. As far as essence generation, we're using Devour, so whenever we kill enemies, we will devour their corpses and get some. It's sort of like a passive essence generation because you're going to have this on autocast, numlock, whatever you use for that. It also restores health, which is really nice. And the other reason I slotted Siphon Blood here is because I love having the on-demand essence generation. There are times, if you're running a curse in this slot, that you just get starved for essence. And as a T13 build, especially a starter one, I wanted it to be pretty seamless, and this is the best way I could think to do that. So the on-demand essence generation is very nice here. Now, let's see. So in this build, we're using the Goldwrap and Boon of the Hoarder combo for defense. So Goldwrap, you pick up gold, you gain armor. A lot of armor, kind of makes you invulnerable. You can even stand in Molten, you can get frozen, any elite affix pretty much tank once you've gotten enough gold picked up. Boon of the Hoarder, of course, is giving us that gold generated when we kill enemies to give us that defensive bonus. Something to note with this defensive setup is it is vulnerable at the start of the rift, after you die, and even on the Rift Guardian because you wouldn't have picked up gold recently in those situations, so you have to be extra careful at those times. Now, you can use Blood Rush to kind of get around without using it in the SWAT, or maybe just a little nudge here and there to pick up a little bit extra gold. With this current setup, I do not have a lot of pickup radius. Ideally, you would want more, but again, simulating the base setup that you might have at the start of the season. Maybe you didn't get pickup radius on your gear, so I wanted to try that out, see how it went. Ideally, I am comfortable with at least, I would say 6 minimum. 10 is even more comfortable for me, but there are some options for a higher Paragon setup that you can, some alternate items such as a Varus Band or Ring of Royal Grandeur that you can use to get glow radius instead, pickup radius instead. But for now, just know that that's also a desirable stat just to make your life easier. Boot on the Holder, thankfully, also gives us movement speed. So when we pick up that gold, we'll get a boost of movement speed, which helps again with maintaining our endless walk. We've additionally, on that 4th passive slot here, we've slotted Fueled by Death. And these 3 I would say are fairly required, but this one is more optional. Fueled by Death gives you up to 30% movement speed. Right now, at this moment, at the release of this video, it is bugged, but I expect before seasons this will get fixed and it will be usable, hopefully, by that time. In its place, right now, some of the other choices that I've found really good to help maintain essence, I've been using Swift Harvesting. Again, increase the attack speed of Siphon Blood, you get more essence. Commander of the Risen Dead, since we are using command skeletons quite a bit, jump into target to target just to make sure that they are engaged to get that multiplicative bonus. This is a very nice way to save essence as well. You could also use Grisly Tribute if you have life on hit on your gear, on your bracer or whatever. This will give you a little bit more recovery as far as health is concerned. Speaking of health, and defense, you will get a double health bonus from your 4-piece here. Healing from skills is added to maximum life, up to 100% more, so at this level I'll have about 900,000 life, but even at that level on T13 you can still get one shot, so again, be careful with your Goldwrap bonus. So a little tip here, if you're running low on essence as well, you can just cast Blood Rush because we have all the runes with the 2-piece set bonus. You have the Molting rune, leaves a corpse, there it is, and if I have Devour on autocast, it will consume that corpse as I move. Another cool thing, interaction with that, is that as you're moving throughout the rift, your Fueled by Death passive will get refreshed even if you are in between packs, so you will maintain that movement speed bonus. And we are using Nemesis bracers in this build. Shrines and pylons spawn enemy champions, gives you that much more progress. Little tip is just make sure that your bone armor dislocation is off cooldown before you click the pylon. Immediately cast this afterward, that way you can stun the pack of enemies that are there, champions that are there, that way you don't get insta-gibbed in case your Goldwrap is low, bonus is low for whatever reason. For follower, I prefer the Enchantress for all the stuns and charms that she provides. Yeah, I would use a different weapon, but you definitely want to stack attack speed and cooldown wherever you can on her items. Make sure you have an Oculus Ring, sometimes an S of Johan, or you could use a Dovu's Energy Trap here as well. For weapon, you might want to go with a Thunder Fury, just because that has a slow effect. That would be nice to help proc your Chrisbans, so that would be something to consider. For Paragon, you want attack speed till you hit the breakpoint, then cooldown reduction. You're going to want Visistall first, and then probably armor. You're going to want life per hit probably first, and then area damage. Resource would be nice, but actually that's up to you which one you want more, but I think area damage would be better. And move speed, you don't need max essence necessarily. If you want to put points on that, that's fine, but I would just dump it all into intelligence after that. Now, something to note with the gem slots is if you're feeling a little bit low on toughness, you could put diamonds in here for more all resist. You could also put amethysts in here for a higher base health pool, since we are getting the double health bonus. That would be a very good choice. But other than that, if you want offensive gems, just put topazes. So something you can do if you hadn't found the Endless Walk ring set yet is just use a Convention of Elements and then whatever good amulet you have on hand that has good stats. And the Convention of Elements setup performs similarly, just not quite as good as Endless Walk, especially since with this particular build we can control the damage bonus on Endless Walk a little bit easier. At low Paragon that will be better, especially when you consider the cyclical nature of this ring. Even though it's only 3 phases for the Necro, it's still a full, you have to wait 8 seconds before you get your huge damage, and it's just annoying. Just to recap the stuns you have in this build to proc Crisbins and get that increased damage. You've got your bone armor coming off cooldown really quick, and you also have command skeletons. As far as proccing the first level of this bonus, you don't have curses, so you cannot proc it at range. So most of the time, you're going to want to be running up close to whatever high health mobs you're going to want to be killing, just so you can proc a slow on them through the aura of Bait in the Trap. That's how I do it, at least. Anyway, so hope this helps, and I hope you enjoy this build. There are a few high Paragon variations that you can do. And like I was talking earlier, you could swap out this Endless Walk set once you hit higher Paragon. And my preference is to put in the Dovu Energy Trap just to get longer stuns to be able to proc Crisbins more often, therefore doing more damage. So if you have a really good Dovu Energy Trap in seasons later on, that would be something to use. You could also... One of my favorite rings would be to use Ring Aurora Grandeur, and then either in the cube or probably wearing, you would wear the Gloves of Worship. Those are the gloves that give you 10 minutes duration on shrine effects, and that would be really great in combination with everything because you'd be able to get the Fleeting buff, which increases your pickup radius and run speed. You could get the Frenzy buff, would increase the attack speed of your pets, do more damage that way. You could also get the Empowered buff, which is the one that reduces your cooldowns even further. I was seeing upwards of like 75% cooldown, which was like almost instant on your Bone Armor and Blood Rush. It was almost like I had Engiom, I tell you the truth, but it was a lot of fun, but definitely not quite as high damage, so I would wait till higher Paragon to make those swaps. So just keep those in mind. That about does it for the guide. Thank you for watching. I'll roll some T13 footage that I did on this build, and I'll also put at the end a Convention of Elements run just so you can see the difference. And yeah, catch you on the next one.